My parents abandoned me in foster care for 14 years and lied that I was raised by a distant cousin. Now they're asking me to move in with them, pretend we're a normal family, and keep playing along with their story. I have always thought of myself as the unluckiest person in the world. You see, my mother got pregnant with me while she and my father were still in college. At that stage in their lives, they were young, carefree, and enjoying themselves without thinking too much about the consequences. They skipped using any protection, probably assuming that something like an unplanned pregnancy would never happen to them. But of course it did. And when it happened, my dad immediately made it clear that he wanted no part in it. The idea of having a child was never something he had even considered, and he was completely against it. As soon as my mom told him she was pregnant, his first response was to pressure her into terminating the pregnancy. He didn't want to take on the responsibility of raising a child, and felt like it would ruin his life if he became a father at such a young age. He insisted that it was the only reasonable option for the both of them. But for my mom, things weren't so simple. She had been raised in a deeply religious family where abortion was seen as an unforgivable sin. If her parents ever found out that she had gone through with it, they would have turned their backs on her completely. She would have lost their support, possibly even been disowned. With that in mind, she felt like she had no choice but to go through with the pregnancy. Maybe she thought she could make it work somehow, or maybe she just couldn't bear the thought of being abandoned by her family. Either way, she decided to have me, even though my father had already made it clear that he wasn't going to be there for either of us. After I was born, my mother did make an attempt to step into the role of a parent. At first, she tried to care for me, maybe out of obligation, or maybe because she thought she could grow into the responsibility. My father, on the other hand, had no such struggles. He visited me only once, and that was enough for him. After that, he completely cut himself off from both me and my mother, furious that she had chosen to keep the baby against his wishes. He wanted to live his life without any ties to us. So he walked away, leaving my mother to figure everything out on her own. At some point, I guess my mother started feeling the weight of it all. Whether it was the stress of raising a child on her own, the judgment from others, or just the fact that she had never really wanted to be a mother in the first place, she began to lose interest. She tried for a while, but in the end, she decided that this life wasn't for her. After talking it over with her parents, she made the choice to give me up. But instead of stepping in to take care of me themselves, my grandparents refused. They had strict beliefs and a strong concern for their reputation. To them, having a grandchild born out of wedlock was shameful, and they didn't want to deal with the whispers and judgment from their community rather than face the social consequences. They chose to turn their backs on me, just like my father had. I eventually ended up in the foster care system, where I spent 14 years practically raising myself. I learned the truth about my parents' abandonment through a letter my mother had left behind, detailing everything she had experienced. While part of me felt pity for her struggles, I couldn't ignore the anger I felt, anger that she had brought me into this world only to turn her back on me. Those 14 years were some of the hardest and loneliest of my life. I was constantly being moved from one home to another, bouncing between different foster families. Most of the homes I lived in already had multiple children, and I always felt like an outsider, just another kid passing through, never truly belonging. No place ever felt permanent for me. There was always this lingering sense that at any moment I would have to pack up and leave again, start over somewhere new, surrounded by strangers who didn't really see me as family. Through all of this, I had no connection to my birth parents. Neither of them ever reached out, not even once. I grew up not knowing anything about them other than what my mom had written in the letter, not even their names. I used to spend hours making up stories in my head about who they might be. Sometimes, I imagined that they regretted giving me up. Other times I would pretend that they were searching for me, desperate to find me, but somehow unable to. Those thoughts were my way of coping, a way to fill the emptiness of not knowing. Then out of nowhere, everything changed. Last year, my birth parents suddenly decided to reach out to me. It was completely unexpected. I had long since given up on the idea of ever hearing from them. As it turns out, after my mom gave me up, she and my dad went their separate ways. They didn't stay together after I was born. They just moved on with their lives, completely detached from the fact that they had abandoned a child. But then last year, by some twist of fate, they ran into each other again. They started talking, reconnecting, and reminiscing about the past. That old bond they had in college somehow reignited. And before they knew it, they were back together. And for whatever reason, that reunion made them start thinking about me, the child they had left behind so many years ago. Apparently, both of them suddenly started feeling regret over giving me up. Maybe it was nostalgia, maybe it was guilt, or maybe they just liked the idea of rewriting history to make themselves feel better. Whatever it was, they decided they wanted to find me, and they did. When they finally got in contact with me, I was completely shocked. I had spent my whole life thinking they didn't care, that I was just some forgotten mistake they had erased from their lives. And then out of the blue, they were here acting as if they had a right to know me. I had so many questions for them. Why now? What changed? Why did they think they could just walk back into my life like nothing had happened? When we finally talked, they didn't hold anything back. They were upfront about everything. How young they were, how unprepared they had felt, how they had made the choice to give me up because they just weren't ready. My dad kept repeating how he wasn't mature enough to be a father back then, but had supposedly grown since. My mom, on the other hand, kept insisting that they could finally make things right. She seemed to believe that now, after all these years, we could just become a family. I sat there listening to them, feeling completely numb. They spoke so casually about abandoning me, like it was just some unfortunate decision they had to make and not something that had defined my entire life until then. And now, after all this time, they expected me to just accept them, to pretend the past didn't matter. They kept saying I should let it go and focus on this so-called new beginning. In the end, I did end up moving back in with them. I don't even know why I agreed to it. Maybe I just wanted to see if things could actually work out. Or if somehow, against all odds, we could actually rebuild something that never really existed in the first place. Or maybe I was just tired of bouncing around, tired of never having a place that felt truly mine, tired of always feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. For so long, I lived without a real sense of family. I watched other kids in foster care get adopted or go back to their birth families, and I always wondered what it would be like to have that. Maybe deep down, some part of me hoped that moving in with my parents would finally give me that feeling of stability, of belonging, that I'd finally have a place to call home. But now, after everything, it's painfully clear that this place will never feel like home to me. I feel like a fish out of water. My parents act like we're just a normal family, like we're picking up right where we left off. But no matter how many times they tell me this is my home, I don't feel comfortable. Because a home isn't just walls and a roof. A home is a place where you feel safe, where you feel loved, where you belong. And here with them, I don't belong at all. I know a lot of people in my position would probably feel lucky. Some kids in the foster system would give anything to be reunited with their birth parents, to have a family again. But for me, living with my parents has only made me despise them even more. The more time I spend around them, the more I realize just how selfish and clueless they really are. They walk around acting like they never abandoned me. Like these past 14 years of my life, years filled with loneliness, instability, and pain, just never happened. To them, it's like I was always meant to be here, like we're just a happy little family picking up where we left off. They're so overly affectionate, constantly trying to hug me or kiss me, but I don't even know how I feel about them yet. I don't know if I want to be touched by them, and they don't even seem to care how uncomfortable it makes me. My mom especially is obsessed with having me around. She takes me everywhere with her, whether I want to go or not. If she has a hair appointment, I have to be there. If she's going shopping, she insists I tag along. She keeps calling me her built-in best friend, like I'm just some accessory she suddenly remembered she had. It's weird. It's like she's trying to make up for lost time, but in a way that feels more about her needs than mine. My dad, on the other hand, doesn't know what to do with me. He treats me like I'm made of glass, like one wrong move will shatter me. He's too nice, too careful, and it just comes off as awkward and forced whenever it's just the two of us. He struggles to hold a proper conversation with me, and I can feel how uncomfortable he is around me. He cannot stay in a room alone with me and always wants my mother around as a buffer. And then there's the lying. Every time we have guests over, my parents make a big show of introducing me to everyone like I'm some kind of trophy they just found. But they never tell people the truth. They don't mention that I was in foster care for the past 14 years. Instead, they spin some ridiculous story about how my mother got pregnant with me and that one of my mom's distant cousins voluntarily decided to raise me because my parents were too young to take care of me at the time. They blatantly lie and force me to go along with it. It's obvious they're embarrassed, ashamed of the fact that they abandoned me, and are now trying to rewrite history to make themselves look better. They don't want anyone to know the truth because then they'd have to admit what kind of people they really are. Recently, my birthday came around, and my parents put together a small gathering with only a handful of guests. Among them were my mom's parents, a few close family friends, and some of my dad's siblings. My grandparents were already in on the false story my parents had been spreading, and I even overheard them repeating the same lie that I had been raised by my mom's distant cousin. Throughout the party, my parents acted as if they were the perfect parents to me. They went from guest to guest saying how blessed they felt to be my parents and how much joy it brought them to take care of me. My dad kept bragging about how I never complained or cried and even said that raising me was like a walk in the park. I couldn't help but laugh inside at what he was saying. It was so strange to hear him boast as if he had really been there for me all those years instead of leaving me behind. On the other hand, my mom was constantly calling me over for pictures. Every 5 minutes she would pull me aside to take a photo. I know how much she loves sharing these pictures on her Facebook, along with captions about the special bond between a mother and her daughter. It kind of feels like every picture is more about her showing off our perfect family image than actually celebrating me. As you can imagine, the whole party gave off the vibe that it was really a chance for my parents to brag about themselves. When it was time to cut the cake, I noticed that they didn't even get my favorite cake for the party. Instead, they bought an ice cream cake, the kind that I know only my mom likes. This was just another sign that they were more focused on what made them happy rather than what I would have liked. When it was time to open presents, everyone gathered around, and I opened my mom's gift first. Inside, I found a photo album, but the album was completely empty. One of my mom's relatives couldn't help but ask why it was empty, suggesting that she should have filled it with some of my childhood photos. I saw my mom's face turn red in embarrassment as she tried to explain that she wanted this album to have new pictures and not pictures of me from years ago. This is when I loudly asked my mother in front of all the guests, "Do you even have any pictures of me as a baby?" My mom looked completely caught off guard, scrambling for an answer. I watched as she awkwardly tried to laugh it off and quickly lied to everyone saying she might have 1 or 2 baby pictures buried somewhere in the basement. Then, in an even weaker attempt to justify herself, she claimed she had been too busy to take pictures of me back then since I had gone to live with her distant cousin so soon after birth. That's when something inside me snapped. I don't know what came over me, but I just couldn't let them keep up this fake story anymore. So I looked straight at her and asked loud enough for everyone to hear, "Who is this supposed cousin you keep mentioning that I went to live with?" "Oh, you mean the foster homes I grew up in." The moment those words left my mouth, the entire room went silent. I could feel every set of eyes turning toward us. My parents and grandparents looked absolutely frozen, their faces draining of color. They knew. They knew that the truth was out and that there was no way to cover it up anymore. I wasn't done. I went on to tell everyone in that room that my mom and dad had abandoned me, that there was no distant cousin who had taken care of me, and that I had spent the past 14 years raising myself in foster care. As I spoke, I could see the horror and pity wash over the guests' faces. Some people looked uncomfortable, others shocked. My parents had spent so much time creating this perfect little lie, and in just a few sentences I had completely shattered it. The party was pretty much over after that. A lot of people seemed pissed at my parents. My parents were furious at me. As soon as the guests left, Dad yelled at me saying I had embarrassed them for no reason and humiliated them in front of everyone. His face was red with rage as he screamed that I was grounded and that I had ruined everything. Then, as if that wasn't ridiculous enough, he took away all my birthday presents and ordered me to write the word "sorry" 200 times on a piece of paper just to make up for my actions. He said that if I didn't do it, he would never forgive me. I stood my ground and refused to do it. I didn't see why I should apologize when they were the ones who had been lying. They were the ones who had made up this false narrative and expected me to keep up with it. My mom, she cried a lot. Of course she cried, but not because she felt guilty or ashamed of what they had done to me. No, she cried because I had exposed them. Ever since the party, she has been guilt-tripping me, sobbing about how I have ruined their family's reputation and how their lie was just meant to protect us. According to her, I am the one who has destroyed everything because I am mean and selfish, when in reality all I have done is just refuse to play along with their charade. Even after everything, my parents still don't get it. So Reddit Ida Update 1. Wow, thank you for all your support. I can't believe hundreds of people would see and comment on this post. It's going to take me a while to go through all of them. First of all, I haven't shared my exact age in this post for my own safety. There are too many creeps out there and I don't want any of them lurking in my DMs. To protect myself, I've deliberately left out certain details of my life that could potentially identify me. For now, let's just say that I am very much dependent on my parents and I can't just move out. Secondly, my mom had been very careful about who she invited to my birthday party. She didn't invite most of her side of the family, only her parents, because she knew that if she started telling the lie about me being raised by her so-called distant cousin, she would get easily caught by them. But I guess that's the thing about lies. They don't stay hidden forever. After reading some of the comments people have made, I've come to realize something that I have been avoiding all this while. I do resent my parents. I guess I have been trying to convince myself that I am just frustrated or confused, but the truth is, I feel a deep, lingering resentment toward them. And why wouldn't I? I don't understand why they abandoned me in the first place. I don't understand why they couldn't have just worked through their problems back then and stayed together for me. And most of all, I don't understand why they have suddenly decided to bring me back into their lives after all these years. And what makes it worse? They have never once apologized to me. Not even a simple, "We're sorry for what we did to you, and we should have put your needs before us." They have never tried to understand what I went through growing up in foster care. It's like in their minds the past is just some inconvenient detail that we're all supposed to ignore. Whenever I do try to talk to them about it, whenever I bring up the hardships I faced, the loneliness, the instability, the pain, my dad just rolls his eyes and calls me a baby. He says I'm over-exaggerating, like I made it all up in my head. And my mom, she just waves it off and tells me I need to forget the past and move on. But how can I? How do you forget something that shaped your entire life? How do you just erase years of struggle, of feeling unwanted, of constantly wondering why the two people who were supposed to love you the most left you behind? To the people in the comments calling me out and telling me that I should be more grateful to my parents, I have just one thing to say. Consider yourself lucky because you were never abandoned like me. You were never tossed aside like an inconvenience, never left to grow up in a system that doesn't care about you, never forced to raise yourself because the people who should have loved you didn't want to. So don't just write that I need to be grateful. You have no idea what it's like. That being said, do I appreciate having a roof over my head now? Yes. Do I acknowledge that I have food on the table, that I'm not struggling to survive anymore? Absolutely. For that, I can be grateful. But being grateful for my present circumstances does not erase the past. It doesn't mean I have to forgive them. It doesn't mean I have to pretend that what they did was okay. I can appreciate the fact that I have stability now and still be angry about everything that led up to this point. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever stop feeling that way right now. Update 2. Since my last update, things have completely blown up for my parents. Apparently, after I spoke the truth at the party, word spread fast. It seems like people have started talking, and now my parents are getting bombarded with phone calls from so-called friends and relatives who are furious with them. The story of what they did abandoning me and then lying about it has reached just about everyone they were trying to keep it from. And let's just say, people aren't taking it lightly. A lot of their relatives feel betrayed that my parents lied to them about our family's history. Some have outright told them that they should have never tried to rewrite the past, especially when it involves something as serious as giving up their own child. My mom in particular has been hit hard with backlash. She's even received a couple of calls from people on her side of the family telling her she's going to hell for what she did to me. My dad isn't getting off easy either. Some of his own relatives have straight up called him a deadbeat parent for abandoning me in the first place. And as for my grandparents, oh, they're playing the innocent act perfectly. They've gone around telling everyone that this was all my mom's decision, that they had nothing to do with it. It's almost laughable. These are the same people who refused to raise me because they didn't want to deal with the shame of having a grandchild born out of wedlock. And now they're pretending they were just helpless bystanders. Yeah, right now. My parents are furious at me. They feel like I have ruined their reputation, like I betrayed them by exposing the truth. They're convinced that everyone is just ganging up on them and are out to get them for no reason. They keep going on and on about how I should have kept my mouth shut at the party, how I should have kept my anger aside and thought about our family first. But the thing is, I never lied to anyone. They did. I simply told everyone what actually happened. If my parents are facing consequences now, it's not because of me. It's because of the choices they made years ago, choices they tried to cover up. And the fact that they're more upset about being judged than about what they actually did just proves that they still don't think they did anything wrong. Update 3. It's been a while since I last updated here. For everyone wondering if things have gotten any better, no, they haven't. If anything, things have actually gotten worse. My parents have now convinced themselves that the only way to keep our family together is by going to family therapy. And at first, this might sound like a good thing, and maybe it would have been if they actually wanted to listen and try to understand me. But that's not what's happening. Instead, they're using therapy as a tool to force me to forgive them. Every session feels like an ambush. I sit there while my parents go on and on and on about how they are doing everything they can to move forward and how I'm the one stuck in the past. They act like I'm being difficult because I refuse to just let everything go. They want me to stop bringing up my childhood stories, stop talking about the years I spent in foster care because apparently it hurts them to hear about it. Can you believe that the people who abandoned me, who left me to be raised by strangers who never checked in, never cared, are now acting like they're the victims because hearing about my pain makes them uncomfortable? My mom keeps insisting that I've changed, that I'm not acting like the same happy child I used to be. She constantly brings up how as a baby I was always smiling, always laughing, how I had this innocent, happy personality. She feels like now I've grown into a hateful teenager, someone who is cold, distant, and ungrateful. She says it like it's my fault, like I chose to become this way, as if the past has had no effect on me. She doesn't seem to realize, or maybe she just refuses to acknowledge, that the happy baby she remembers had no idea that she would face abandonment, neglect, or the pain of growing up in a system that treated me like an afterthought. That baby had no idea that she would move from home to home, constantly adapting to new families, never truly belonging anywhere. That baby had no idea that she would be left to grow up alone, feeling unwanted and unloved. My mom looks at me now and wonders why I'm not the same. But she never stops to think about how she and my dad are the reason for that change. She just acts like I should have stayed that happy, smiling child. Like I should have somehow preserved that joy and innocence despite everything I went through. She wants me to embrace this fantasy she has where I'm this grateful, loving daughter who forgives without question, who welcomes them back into my life with open arms as if they never left. And because I haven't played along with this perfect little reunion she's envisioned, suddenly, I'm the bad guy in their lives. Suddenly, I'm the one who is trying to ruin our family. They keep telling me that I should be trying harder to make this work. But what they never do is acknowledge why I feel the way I do. To them, the past is something that should just be brushed aside, something I should forget, because they want to move forward. But to me, it's not that easy, because unlike them, I actually lived it. The therapist has tried to help a lot. He tries to get them to see my side of things, but there's only so much he can do. When both my parents refuse to listen, they basically gang up on me every session, making it seem like I'm the problem, like I'm the one refusing to make things work. It's exhausting. It's isolating. And honestly, it's starting to feel hopeless. I don't think my parents will ever truly accept how inhumane it was to abandon me. They will never understand how much damage they caused, and they will never stop expecting me to act like everything is fine just because they want it to be. In their heads, they've done nothing wrong. They think they're good people, that they're trying, and that I'm the ungrateful one. And I can't change that. So I've made up my mind. I've been reading through the advice people have given me since I uploaded this post, and I think the best thing I can do now is to keep my head down and focus on my future. I want to be better than my parents. I want to build a life where I never have to rely on them, where I never have to pretend to be okay with them just to keep the peace. For now, I'm going to take advantage of whatever resources they can provide me. I'm going to focus on my studies, get the best grades I can, and work toward getting out of this house, because at the end of the day, the only person I can truly count on is myself. This is going to be my last update for now. Thank you everyone for all your help.